I just want to remind everyone in room and on the phone that this information is embargoed until the minister tables the bill this afternoon at approximately 3:15, and I will invite them to come on out now.
Good morning. Thank you for joining me to introduce Bill 10. If passed, this legislation will fulfill key Budget 2024 priorities. Budget 2024 is an opportunity to responsibly strengthen healthcare and education, build safe communities, manage our resources, and promote job creation to build Alberta's competitive advantage. Our population is growing. Budget 2024 serves as our roadmap to build a stronger Alberta today while we plan for tomorrow. It is our commitment to making Alberta an even better place to live, work, and raise a family well into the future. Making responsible fiscal investments will benefit our economy and competitiveness. Bill 10 supports 4 priorities from Budget 2024. First, fiscal planning and reporting. Albertans deserve to know how fiscal decisions will affect their lives. Maintaining that clarity is important. When it comes to government finances, no 2 years are the same. The decisions made in 1 year might not be applicable for the current year you're in. This is why we're proposing 3 changes to the Sustainable Fiscal Planning and Reporting Act. First, we would amend our fiscal reporting requirements for our mid-year fiscal update, which must be released by the end of November. Instead of providing a full 3-year forecast similar to budget, we would report the forecast for the current fiscal year only. Changing this requirement would streamline department reporting. It would save time and money within my ministry, and it would mean that staff would be able to plan and focus on the budget earlier. Our commitment to Albertans remains the same. We will continue to provide timely and transparent fiscal reports on the government's fiscal and economic performance, and that includes our mid-year report and all other updates. We are also proposing to exclude the Alberta Fund from spending restrictions in the Sustainable Fiscal Planning Act. Currently, all in-year spending increases need to be covered by a budgeted and voted contingency with some exceptions. Under proposed amendments, we would exempt the Alberta Fund from the in-year spending rule. That would give the government more time and flexibility to decide when and how to deploy the cash in the Alberta Fund. To be clear, even with this exclusion from spending limitations, we would still be required to balance the budget each year. And we could only spend from the Alberta Fund during a surplus year. Spending from the Alberta Fund would not and could not push the province into a deficit. Ultimately, this change would give the government greater capacity to make responsible spending decisions that would benefit both current and future Albertans. Proposed amendments would also exclude the Alberta Carbon Capture Incentive Program from Sustainable Fiscal Planning Act expense limitations. This is currently the case for the Alberta Petrochemicals Incentive Program. This change would make it easier to provide capital grants to emerging innovators at unpredictable periods. It's extremely difficult to budget for these programs. That's because we don't know when new projects will be complete and become eligible to receive the 12% grant for capital costs. These changes would allow us to support emerging innovators in the carbon capture field with potentially large grants whenever their projects become eligible. That's important as we continue to diversify Alberta's economy and take further steps to reduce emissions. Fiscal transparency is a key priority for Alberta's government, and last year, credit rating agencies like S&P Global Ratings and DBRS Morningstar upgraded Alberta's credit rating, recognizing the progress we have made with our finances. Next, this legislation would fulfill a key government promise to attract skilled workers. While Alberta's strong economy and competitive business environment continue to attract people to Alberta, labor shortages have lingered, especially in the skilled trades. But I won't speak too much about it, as I will be passing it over to Minister Jones shortly to expand on the attraction bonus and highlight the film and television tax credit. And while we support newer industries like film and television, we continue to support Alberta's mainstay industries like agriculture. The food and agriculture processing industry continues to be an important economic driver in our province, That's why we're continually improving incentives like the Agri-Processing Investment Tax Credit Program. While this program is attracting large-scale investments, our proposed amendments would make it easier for registered partnerships to apply for the tax credit. With the amendments, applicants would be able to apply using a single application. Whether they invest at least $10 million to build a new agri-processing facility or expand an existing facility in Alberta. By making these changes, we're signaling to investors that Alberta is a friendly, competitive place to do business and create new jobs in food and ag processing. In addition to incentives such as this tax credit, we will continue to ignite economic growth and investment in the value-added agriculture sector. We are also updating our land title and registration fees. This update will help support the modernization of the Land Titles Office, making it more efficient, allowing new housing projects to start faster while ensuring prompt transfer and registration of property. The levy supports ongoing crucial projects for our growing population. Costs for land title services in Alberta have been below most other jurisdictions in Canada. With the proposed change, costs in Alberta are still expected to remain the lowest of the 6 largest provinces. Budget 2024 also takes further steps to deter smoking and tobacco use. Proposed amendments would raise cigarette and smokeless tobacco taxes. Improving Albertans' health is important. Taxation is proven to be an effective tool for motivating people to quit using tobacco and discouraging others from starting. Our government's hope is to see that revenue decrease as more people quit, especially among young people most affected by tobacco use. As we build Alberta's future prosperity, the amendments we are proposing today will help us get there. They will preserve Alberta's excellence when it comes to fiscal reporting and keep Alberta as the lowest tax jurisdiction in Canada. Albertans and Alberta businesses will still have a tax advantage thanks to our low tax environment. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Minister Jones.
Good morning, and thank you, Minister Horner, for providing context to the upcoming proposed legislative changes. Jobs, economy, and trade enhances Alberta's competitive advantage by creating the conditions necessary to help more Albertans and businesses prosper. This includes attracting and developing a highly skilled and resilient workforce. As part of my mandate, Premier Smith tasked me with introducing an Alberta is calling attraction bonus for out-of-province job seekers. This attraction bonus was officially announced a few weeks ago in Budget 2024 and will provide a one-time $5,000 refundable tax credit to attract out-of-province workers in the skilled trades. For this payment to be made as a refundable tax credit, we are proposing changes to the Alberta Personal Income Tax Act. These amendments will also support my ministry in successfully operating the program and delivering an attraction bonus that will help support our growing economy. Skilled trades workers are key to building Alberta today and tomorrow. From homes to hospitals to schools to large-scale capital infrastructure, they are needed by the thousands. And while our vocational schools produce many skilled trades right here at home, there still are not enough to keep pace with the increasing demands on our labor force. The attraction bonus will help bridge this gap. With a budget of $10 million, the attraction bonus will support hard-working, out-of-province skilled trades workers to take up meaningful jobs in Alberta. It will also help them get here, with it costing roughly $5,000 for someone to move to Alberta from another province. If this proposal is approved by the legislature, the program will launch in April, and full eligibility requirements will be announced at that time. However, there are some details that I can share today. The attraction bonus will target electricians, heavy-duty mechanics, welders, pipe fitters, and crane operators, among other trades occupations, which will be established in the eligibility requirements. Individuals who move to Alberta after the program starts, take up a job in one of the eligible occupations, file a 2024 tax return in Alberta, and meet the program's other conditions will be considered for the bonus. Finally, the attraction bonus will be delivered on a first-come, first-served basis. This will ensure fairness in accessing the program. This bill would also make changes to the Alberta Film and Television Tax Credit, or FTTC. Created in 2019, the FTTC offers a refundable tax credit of 22 or 30% on eligible Alberta productions and labor costs for projects with a budget of at least $500,000. The FTTC has attracted some of the biggest productions in the world, including HBO's The Last of Us, which is touted as one of the largest television series in Canadian history, as well as The Abandons and Fargo Season 5, which are estimated to spend over $200 million in Alberta. While this program has seen success, stakeholders have identified ways to improve it. The amendments proposed today would accomplish two policy goals. First, we propose to create a wider application window that would allow productions to apply to the FTTC up to 120 days after commencing filming in Alberta. Currently, they must apply before principal photography. This would give applications increased flexibility. Second, we propose to increase the flexibility of when tax credits are issued. Currently, productions must apply for their tax credit at the end of the production based on when the deliverables are received by the FTTC program staff. They receive one tax credit for the entire production that must be claimed in a single tax year. We propose to allow productions to either request multiple tax certificates for each taxation year that costs were incurred, or to request a single tax credit for the last taxation year in which eligible costs were incurred. These changes would give productions increased flexibility and could reduce their loan carrying costs and free up operating cash flow. If this bill is approved by the legislature, other changes, including expanding the genres that could qualify for the FTTC, will be made in regulation. More information on those additional changes will be available in the future. Alberta's economy has momentum, and Budget 2024 helps us maintain our competitive advantage that makes our province so desirable. This attraction bonus is important to ensuring companies can continue to meet their labor requirements and that Albertans have greater access to affordable homes, vital infrastructure, and opportunities that support our growing population. With that, happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ministers. We'll start with those here in the room. You can raise your hand, state your name and outlet for the record. It'll be one question, one follow-up. Jana, you were very fast. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if this is for Minister Horner or Jones or both, but I just had a look at the comparison between your election platform on the Alberta is Calling retention bonus and the actuality. So the platform covered people who moved here in 23 and 24. This bill is proposing just 2024. Originally, you budgeted $17 million to spend on the program. Now you're saying it's going to be $10 million. The proposal was to help around 14,000, give it to 14,000 people, newcomers per year. Now you're looking at 2,000. It used to apply to childcare workers, healthcare practitioners, apprentices or journey people. Now you're saying it's just for skilled trades people. And also it's somehow changed from a $1,200 cash payment to a $5,000 refundable tax credit. Can you explain how we got from what was proposed to what we're actually seeing?
Yeah, so what was proposed was a party platform, and what is being put forward is informed by consultation with stakeholders and benefits from the extensive labor market information that we have within the government of Alberta. So I would say that one was a party platform. There is much more rigor behind this program. We know that skilled trades is the #1 area that we need to address the labor shortage in. It's literally holding up homes, hospitals, schools, and billions of dollars in job-creating petrochemical infrastructure. So that's why you're seeing us focus on the skilled trades. We also have other initiatives in place to attract healthcare workers. So we wanted to focus this particular initiative on skilled trades. In terms of the dollar value and recipients, that's really what's changed here. In doing the work behind this program, we determined that the average moving cost for a Canadian, say from Ontario, to relocate to Alberta was around $5,000. The initial amount proposed in the party platform was $1,200. To me, that was not material enough of a benefit to attract or to motivate a moving decision. So we, of course, moved that benefit up to what is material. This is $5,000 tax-free. It's a pretty significant benefit, and of course, with a higher amount, you can provide it to less recipients. But I would say, if this program is successful, we would look at expanding it to address other shortages, including in healthcare potentially and childcare.
I guess I'm just surprised that healthcare would not be the first priority, given the kind of pressures we're seeing in that system. Why not use every possible lever at your disposal when we're seeing the kind of pressure we're seeing?
Yeah, and we are, but Premier Smith is collaborating with the other premiers. We're all facing healthcare worker shortages, and we certainly wouldn't want to cause any hardship for other provinces that are also dealing with healthcare challenges. We're trying to collaborate and find solutions that improve labor mobility for everyone. And again, health has incentive programs to attract physicians and cover the costs of bridging and upgrading nurses, say, from the Philippines. So there are other programs in place that are facilitating the attraction of healthcare workers. This particular program is intended to address what is the next largest category, which is skilled trades.
Shaylin, go
Yeah,
ahead.
just following up on that, when you talk about the extensive research and consultations you did to whittle down, I guess, to the skilled workers, can you talk a little bit more about how you arrived at the decision to focus solely on skilled trade workers? And if you can provide any more information in terms of what jobs specifically you're looking for?
Yeah, and I'd mentioned some of those, but we're facing shortages in skilled trades pretty much across the board. It's more acute in things like electricians and pipe fitters, heavy-duty mechanics, welders, and crane operators. Those would be the top 5. We are going to make it fairly broad because, again, we are facing shortages pretty much across the board. And we, again, we have extensive labor market information that we use to inform who would be eligible for this program, and we'll be releasing those details later, so you can see that. But it's going to be very broad. It's going to apply to almost all skilled trades. And then we also have some shortages in trucking that I would like to address. But the core intent here is to address the challenges that Alberta is facing. Albertans need homes, they need schools, they need hospitals, and they need jobs. And we've got tens of billions of dollars in capital investment that we have successfully won, and we must deliver. We must be able to build those, or we will have difficulty attracting investments in the future. So we used our extensive labor market information to choose which skilled trades would be included. We consulted with stakeholders to determine the amount that would be material enough to attract a worker. And we also consulted on where we would be advertising this program.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to follow up, and completely unrelated to everything announced today, apologies. On the City of Edmonton strike, how closely is the province watching what's happening there? And when might you be prepared, if, to introduce back to work action?
Yeah, it's certainly my hope that both the city and the union come to a collaborative, mutually beneficial agreement. We are watching it very closely. There are some of the 6,000 workers involved in the collective bargaining process. There are some emergency communications officers that would be involved in the dispatch of emergency services, so that's of concern to me. But again, this is all part of the collective bargaining process. The labor, the code has tools and mechanisms in place, including mediation, which both sides have utilized, and an employer offer was submitted, which was rejected by the members. So the province has tools available to it, a disputes inquiry board, public emergency tribunal, or back to work legislation, but only if the situation escalated to the point that Edmontonians or Albertans were at risk of harm or something catastrophic would I step in. This is very much part of the collective bargaining process. It tends to work. In fact, I believe last year there were no work stoppages. 100% were resolved in mediation. So this one is going a little further, but we respect the collective bargaining process. I hope that they find a mutually beneficial agreement. And the province will, of course, monitor the situation and step in if necessary. But I want to be clear, I respect the process.
Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard. So the Alberta's pulling signing bonuses are available to trades workers, but they're not going to be for other fields with shortages such as healthcare and childcare. Do you anticipate these fields being added to the signing bonuses in the near future? Why or why not?
So if this program is a success, we would look at leveraging it to other areas where we're facing labor shortages, and certainly healthcare and childcare are two of the prime examples. So we're going to make sure that we execute very well on this program and then see if it can be expanded to other areas. But at this time, this program is specifically for the skilled trades.
Okay, my follow-up, I'm not too sure who would be able to answer this, but the Alberta government will be raising the tobacco tax to try to stop smoking. Where do you stand on banning cigarettes for certain ages, like some countries have, like with Mexico, New Zealand, some American states like Hawaii have taken measures such as this?
Well, I think what we're doing here is we're also staying somewhat aligned with our neighboring provinces. You know, we did see that Saskatchewan, for example, they've raised their smokeless tobacco rate almost right after we had lowered it in the previous term. So we do want to keep that alignment. There is a report coming out of health, you know, our tobacco, I'm forgetting the perfect verbiage here, but our tobacco forward-looking plan to get more people off it, and I'm sure they'll look at all jurisdictions and what's being done around the world.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Since you're at the podium, this fiscal framework is a year old, and there's already exemptions being carved out, and I know there's some people who are skeptical about whether you can maintain that fiscal discipline. So what would you say to the people who are like, oh, there's carve-outs coming, who knows what's happening in the future? How are you going to stick to it?
Well, I would just say ASIP's a new program, obviously, so we have to kind of deal with new information as we get it. Much like APIP, the petrochemical program, it is already exempt from the in-year spending rules. But I would say, you know, we created these rules. We're committed to following them, especially from my chair. I think they're extremely helpful for the province looking forward. But we do need, I guess, the flexibility to make them actually work for the province. You know, it was important to the Premier that one-time spending be something that we could use the Alberta Fund dollars for example. We just want to make sure that's possible. I'm probably still going to vote for debt repayment or investment in the Heritage Fund, but you know, we do think if that is the intent, we need to make the rules actually work for that purpose. Maybe back to ASIP, much like APIP, these are lumpy. They're kind of chunky when you're planning forward. So we will have to have an idea. Like we know when these projects will likely come to completion and be applicable. But you know, that can be off by a little bit. You know, if we're planning forward, we think there's going to be $1 billion per se over a few projects. You know, if those come out 3 months earlier and they're in a different fiscal year, you can understand the challenges that will create. So we're still going to need to plan ahead and balance the budget, but I think this is very defensible.
And a question to Minister Jones on the Alberta Film and Television Tax Credit. So you mentioned talking to stakeholders, and there's some new eligible products in game shows and reality shows. I'm wondering, did anyone say, hey, come on down to Alberta? Like, who's, like, where's this? I love the prices right. Anybody specifically ask for those type of shows?
Yeah, so we have film and television infrastructure that is less utilized during the winter months, and these types of productions can be filmed indoors. So the whole intent was, let's ensure there's work and film and television productions to do year-round, which is beneficial to the whole ecosystem. Another change I'd like to highlight is that we're going to make a rural and remote sweetener, essentially enable productions that wouldn't otherwise be eligible for the 30% rate refundable tax credit to be eligible for it if they film about 75% or more of their production in rural and remote Alberta. Right now, it's highly concentrated in the Calgary area. And if you want to continue to have a strong film and television sector province-wide, we need to ensure that people see it in their communities, they have the opportunity to work in their communities, and that's across the board. So that's another change that I'm very excited about.
Thanks, Minister. We're just going to take a lap around the phones. Operator, can you put through the first caller?
Carrie P., Golden Mail.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. One of the answers today to Janet's question on the tax credit, on the Alberta is calling, you had said that this was a part of the party platform, and that's why it changed, that now that you've done more rigorous work. Why should Albertans trust your campaign promises? We've seen Alberta's calling now cut because it was a campaign promise. This sort of seems to be the answer. We've seen a tax cut that was tabled, and the fiscal framework. You're no longer following those rules.
Well, I'll speak to the Alberta's calling bonus. We are doing exactly what we said we would do, which is introducing a bonus to attract workers. I think what you've seen is that we have taken that mandate or commitment to Albertans, and we have done what Albertans would expect, which is applied due diligence to that mandate and made it better. And again, this is phase one. If this is successful, we will look at applying it to the other categories that we're committed to in the platform. But again, I don't see this in any way as not fulfilling a commitment. Quite the opposite. I certainly expect government to do due diligence when they make commitments, and that's not possible in a campaign situation because they don't have access to the various departments. This work was done in conjunction with probably 4 departments across the government of Alberta to get it right, and we consulted with stakeholders. So I think we're meeting the commitment, and I think we've made it better.
Well, on that, you were in government prior to the campaign. You had access to all of the information that might exist. Why should the government then trust that you guys are even, coming up with ideas that are within the ballpark of what might be workable when you were in government and you still didn't meet what ended up being the final program, or perhaps the final program?
So this was not a platform commitment in the previous government, and if you're suggesting that in the previous government we should have used government resources to inform a party platform commitment, I would suggest to you that would be inappropriate, and it's not something I would do.
Okay, thanks. Operators or any other callers on the line?
There are no other questions in the queue at this time.
Okay, we'll come back to the room. I know there's a couple more left. Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Mr. Horner, just wanted to ask about real estate fees. I know they're going up. Some provinces use that as a tool against things like speculation, against things like house flipping. I know we're a long way down the road from that here, but is that something we might see down the road?
Well, we certainly see that, especially in British Columbia. Here it's been a more practical rationale that's taken us down this path. I would say, in the previous years, we've seen just the caseload, frankly, through land titles has swamped the office. In our first term, we had to come back and put more investment dollars into the land titles office, mostly through FTEs and people. Like I said during budget, it's kind of an archaic process. It's a lot of paper and people at this time. What we think we're going to be able to do with working with the Service Alberta Ministry is really modernize the office with these funds. BC's far ahead of us in that place, and we know it's going to take multiple investments to get up to speed, and we think that'll pay Alberta back through timelines specifically in the future. But yeah, your point's well taken. We're certainly aware that it's used as a tool in those ways, but right now with the amount of people that are coming here, the housing starts numbers are at historic highs. We're mostly concerned with volume and making sure that it's timely. And I think also we do want to bring broad advantages for Albertans, like the personal income tax cut that is still a commitment and we will fulfill in this term. But we also need to ensure that we get appropriate revenue in the places that require reinvestment.
And just on the fiscal reporting, we're only getting 1 year now instead of 3. Just talk to us again. What's the rationale for that? Why can't we get that?
Well, certainly, and like I said, we brought in the fiscal rules, but now that we have a year under our belt and we've seen how the process actually works, behind the scenes, it's kind of a diminishing returns, I'd say, in somewhat. Like our fiscal transparency, A+ from CD Howe, highest in the country. We want to ensure that stays, but we're basically building 2 budgets in 3 months. I simply don't have the team within Treasury Board and Finance to put that kind of effort and time into the mid-year. And what we really saw was it made it harder and constrained the process for the actual budget in 2024. So by doing this, we'll be able to get to work on budget 2025 earlier and have more time with the ministries to make sure we're making the appropriate decisions.
Okay, thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. I'm going to go at the back. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is for Minister Jones, actually. I just want to go back to Janet's question a little bit. The Alberta is calling signing bonus was supposed to include healthcare workers and childcare workers. Now it's skilled trades. So knowing the shortages in the sector, why not include them right now before waiting if it works out?
This is phase 1 of the Alberta's calling attraction bonus, and if it is successful, if it is good value for taxpayer dollars and is attracting the workers that we need, we will look at expanding it. As you can appreciate, a campaign targeting multiple types of workers is not as clear to the intended recipient of that information. So we wanted to focus each phase on specific workers, and the first phase is skilled trades. So of course, the Alberta government is interested in attracting and developing more healthcare workers and ECEs, and in fact, we are. We have initiatives across the board. We, for example, we provide professional development of up to $4,000 per year per ECE to increase their education. We are actively engaged with other jurisdictions, including the Philippines and India, to see if we can improve our pipeline of workers in the areas that we need. And health, as I mentioned before, has programs to attract healthcare workers. So I want to be clear that the Alberta government is building and attracting healthcare workers and ECEs. This particular phase of the Alberta's Calling campaign and attraction bonus is targeting skilled trades, and we will look to expand that if it is successful. And I think it's far more likely to be successful if it is targeted on one category of worker. We looked at, it was just very convoluted when it's difficult to advertise meaningfully to people who work in radically different fields, like skilled trades and healthcare workers. They have different priorities, different work environments. It's just not easy from a marketing perspective, and we want it to be successful.
Do you have a follow-up?
And yeah, similarly, again, it was supposed to be for 14,000 workers. Now it's 2,000 workers. And so knowing that skilled trades is a field facing a shortage, you just said it, why going from 14,000 to 2,000?
Because we made the incentive much higher. We went from a $1,200 incentive to a $5,000 tax-free incentive. So when you increase the benefit, you reduce the recipients, and also I think it's unlikely that the program could intake that many people, to be blunt. It was one of the, when you do the due diligence before rolling out a program, you have to ensure that it executes and meets the expectations that you put forward. And so this is just how the program was calibrated when we did the work behind it. I can't speak to the work that was done in the campaign commitment, but I can tell you that it should be obvious to anyone that $1,200 taxable benefit is not very material to someone living in another province, whereas $5,000 tax-free is much more material and is more likely to motivate a moving decision. So that's just one very quick example of how we take an idea and we put significant work and consultation behind it, and it becomes more effective.
Okay, Michelle, go ahead.
Okay,
Last
I have
question.
one question for Minister Jones and one question for Minister Werner. To Minister Jones, you talked about advertising. Do you have specific areas in Canada that you want to advertise this, or I wonder if you could fill me in a little bit on this?
Yeah, Ontario, Quebec, a little bit in BC, and then some in Eastern Canada. So all the usual places. Alberta has a unique value proposition to high-cost city centers. So my pitch to skilled trades, say in Ontario, would be, in Alberta, you can earn more, save more, and live more. You get more space, and skilled trades workers work exceptionally hard, and they should, the skilled trades should work for them.
And not outside of Canada, though, right? This is all within Canada?
This campaign and this phase is within Canada. But again, we are looking, I just met with representatives from India, for example, and we are in discussions with Philippines. We're looking at other areas of the world where we could have partnerships with their post-secondaries where essentially they produce graduates that are very close or at Alberta standards, so that minimal bridging is required to get them to work more quickly in our sector. And then you had a question for Minister Horner.
Just doing the mop up here. So you were just asked about fiscal reporting, and Alberta, I think, is unique in doing quarterly fiscal reporting because of the bill. It was like Ralph Klein passed it, right?
Yeah.
And ever any thought about getting rid of that and just having, just the budget at year end?
Well, I wouldn't think the media would want that very much, Michelle. But, no,
It's unusual, right? Alberta is unusual that way.
Well, and it does take a lot of people, time, and money to make that presentation on the quarters. But I think it's important. The A+, I think, speaks for itself, but we do need it to be manageable too. I've seen what it did to my team and department to provide that, and I think we can be just as transparent and more detailed, going forward under the structure we're proposing, and just frankly have more time and effort to the budget process for the year upcoming.
Thanks, Minister. I'm just going to make sure there's no one else on the line. Operator?
There are no questions on the line at this time.
Okay, thanks, everyone. That concludes our press conference.
Thank you.
Thank you all.